Some Western media criticize sanctions against Russia. According to some politicians and journalists, they do more harm to the countries that have imposed these sanctions. The German portal, The Pioneer, believes the sanctions have weakened the West economically and made Russian lives miserable, but have not broken Putin. Die Welt is also skeptical about the effectiveness of the sanctions. We have to say goodbye to three dreams. 1. Western sanctions will force Russia to surrender. 2. Moscow is isolated in the world. 3. Kiev will win. According to the British The Guardian, the European Union should forget about the sanctions because they do more harm than good. The Times, on the other hand, does not make a clear diagnosis, but it asks whether the sanctions are exerting sufficient pressure on the Kremlin. Meanwhile, Italy and Spain, despite their distance from the theatre of hostilities, are aware of the losses but do not see any other non-military means of pressure. The Italian portal Qui Finanza noted that further restrictions may not destroy Russia, but they make sense. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is appealing to world leaders for new sanctions he says are necessary to stop Putin's aggression. The deliberate increase in gas prices to over $2,000 per 1,000 cubic meters, so I'll do that paragraph again. The deliberate increase in gas prices to over $2,000 per cubic meter in European markets must be enough to extend sanctions against Russia, as it is clear to everyone that this is a deliberate Russian price terror against Europeans. Moscow is doing everything in its power to make the coming winter as severe as possible. There is one way to respond to terror: to impose further sanctions. Yesterday, the energy ministers of the European Union member states reached a political agreement on reducing the demand for gas, which assumes that the demand for the gas will be reduced by 15% before the upcoming winter.
Today we are sending a strong signal, not only to Vladimir Putin, who once again failed to divide the European Union, but most importantly to our citizens. Today's decision ensures we will not have to face dramatic consequences in winter, including gas scarcity or the price spikes.
EU Foreign Affairs head Josep Borrell emphasised that imposing sanctions on the Putin regime is of key importance in weakening the enemy's power, and that none of the decisions taken by the European Union has been a mistake. Number 1. Many ask whether the sanctions adopted by the EU and like-minded partners against Russia are effective. The answer is yes. Number 2. Reducing our structural energy dependence on Russia poses difficulties, but is of great importance as this dependence has been an obstacle to the development of a strong European policy against Moscow's aggressive actions. Number 3. Sanctions are an important instrument of political action that requires strategic patience because it may take a long time for them to have the desired effect. Yesterday, the German Ministry of National Defense announced further shipments of weapons for the Ukrainian army. These include 3 Mars 2 multiple rocket launchers, 5 Gepard self-propelled anti-aircraft guns, and 3 2000 self-propelled howitzers. The delivery has been confirmed by Ukraine. Mars 2 multi-lead rocket launchers have already been handed over to Ukraine by our German allies. We guarantee that the Russians will have a heated response to their aggression and policies of terror and blackmail. Another issue is the delay in the tank replenishment program for partners countries, including Poland, which supplied their equipment to Ukraine. Politicians from the German Christian Democrats said that Chancellor Olaf Scholz does not really want to send the declared Marder infantry vehicles and Leopard tanks. The federal government was not ready to talk to the German arms industry about the speed at which it could possibly supply Poland with Leopard 2 A7 tanks. The Bundeswehr does not actually have a large number of such tanks, but Poland is closer to the front than Germany, so sending the best weapons, not the older models, would be a strong expression of solidarity with an ally. However, this was not done. This situation gave rise to misunderstandings and disappointments, and at the same time highlighted the broadly understood arrogance on the part of Germany. 3 months ago, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz launched a new procedure for the supply of heavy weapons to Ukraine, according to which other countries were to provide Ukraine with their tanks of Soviet construction with which Ukrainian soldiers are familiar. Under the agreement, Germany would replenish the stocks of the supplier countries with its own heavy weapons, but none has yet arrived.